Hello, all the crazy people out there. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games, and in the last one of these beginner to game maker videos, I talked about autotiles and autotile systems and how you can create them in your tile set editor to allow you to speed up the creation of tile maps in rooms by allowing you to paint big splashes of tiles and have the system automatically figure out what to do with the corner and the edge pieces. And today I'm going to talk about something slightly different, which you can also do with the tile set editor, and that is going to be animated tiles. So, I honestly feel like animated tiles in GameMaker usually don't get as much love as they should, because they are quite cool, and they have the potential to be cooler, if not for the fact that GameMaker hasn't really updated them in like 9 years. So if I go into my collection of game assets that I downloaded from the internet, if you want to use these graphics yourself in your game, I will have a link to where you can find them on itch.io. They are free to use and they're fairly comprehensive. I would recommend them. There is a collection of water tiles that I will be using. And crucially, these water tiles have a couple different frames of animation. There's 4 frames of animation for each of these. And there's a couple different patterns. So there's this one that has like just bubbles. There's this one that has a little whirlpool. And I'll be importing this into GameMaker, and we'll be making use of some animated tiles here. So, anyway, let me drag this into GameMaker. We're going to add this as a sprite. We can just call this something like SPR tiles water. And I'm going to go and let me go and right-click create a new tile set. We can call this TS water. We can assign this water sprite to this tile set, and we can look at this. So this tile set does not have this one actually has a graphic in the upper left, which means that this one is going to be kind of inaccessible to us because GameMaker designates that as the null tile. But let me see, everything else I think I've set up correctly here. You can, if you want to, sort of take your auto tile system and you can configure an auto tile for these water tiles also. I will not be doing that, at least not right now. I might do that later in the video. Anyway, what I want to go and let me create a new room, and I can, where is it? We can call this room level 2. I would like it if we load the game in that room. So I'm just going to go and drag it to the top of the room order in the room manager dropdown up here in the corner of the asset browser. This is fairly hidden. I feel like it would be nice if the room order like this was a little bit easier to find. But if you have multiple rooms in your game, which you probably do, and you want to designate one as the one that appears when the game starts, this is how you do it. Anyway, let's see. I should probably add a player here if I want to be able to like walk around or anything like that. Although that's not too terribly important. And I'm also going to, I'm also going to add a tile layer, and we can call this tiles underscore water. How about we'll drag that down here so that it's layered below the player object, and our tile set, we can go and drag ts underscore water to our tile set, and we can now go and use this in our room. So I could just pick a tile and I could flood fill the entire room with it, and that's going to give us, this one happens to be solid blue. It doesn't have any details on it. That's a little boring. Let me go with this one. I could flood fill the entire room with this, and we now have a honestly, it kind of looks like carpet more than water when it just tiles the entire room like this. But anyway, if I run the game now, we are going to be able to see that we've got our night guy running around, and we're standing on top of this, either water or like carpet, depending on your point of view. It's not animated, it doesn't do anything, it's very static, which is one of the reasons it doesn't really look like water. It would be kind of nice if there was a way that we could have these frames of tile animation play in sequence when you're standing here. So let's go and set up some tile animation, shall we? So if you go to your tile set properties, again, that's going to be the tile set itself, not the sprite that it was based on. And if you go to tile animation over on the side here, we can see some user interface that looks a bit like the auto tile user interface down here. And from here, we can click add animation, and we can first set the number of frames. So there's going to be 4 frames of animation in this particular tile set, so I'm just going to set that to 4. And if I were to to click on the 4 frames that I want. So the first one is going to be there, the second one is going to be there, third one here, and the fourth one is here. We can define a sequence of animated tiles. So if you click the play button here, you can see it in motion, and that's going a little bit fast. It's running at 15 FPS right now, which is kind of fast for sprite animations. At least for simple sprite animations like this. I'm going to set that to something that looks more like 4. That's honestly still a little bit fast. 3. Alright, that's better. That's more what I had in mind. Now when I go to the room, all the tiles here are part of this tile animation sequence, and without having to really do anything else, I can run the game now, and all of these tiles... Wow, you can barely see that. Okay. Anyway, all of these tiles are now animated. So, for the sake of being able to see what we're looking at, I haven't talked yet about viewports and cameras in GameMaker yet, and I will do that eventually because it's somewhat important. But let me just go and configure this, configure our viewport here so that we can zoom in a little bit on what we're seeing. Let's see, here we go. So now we're zoomed in a couple times, and we can now see that these tiles are animating. Alright, that's great. So it does look, and this is more of a game design thing or an artistic style thing than a technical thing, but it looks a little bit weird when all tiles in the room are like the same tile and they're all animating still. It doesn't look as weird as when they weren't animating, but I kind of feel like maybe I should go and let me just pick a couple tiles. And we can pick a couple tiles to animate, and I can paint them down like that. And maybe let me go and define a second tile animation set. Again, 4 tiles, and let's go with this this one here, shall we? So that's going to be the that's the end. Well, it doesn't matter because the order doesn't really matter here. But
Hey,
I'm gonna pick this like water droplet thing that's happening. Whatever this is. And that's going to be 4 tiles animated. If I were to go and pick that tile in the tile set editor and just paint it down in a couple of different places, and if I were to run the game now, we can see that we've got ourselves a little water droplets playing, and it's playing at the same speed that we defined for our tile set in our tile animation UI over here, so that's going to be running at about 3 FPS. If you wanted them to play faster, you could increase that speed. Okay, so what else can you do with this? So for one, and this is also kind of like an artistic style choice thing here more than anything else, GameMaker unfortunately does not let you define tile animations that have like a probability of playing or that have a delay between frames or anything like that, and I kind of wish it did, because that's one of those things that would make them a little bit more useful and would maybe make more people inclined to use them for stuff like this. But let's say that you didn't want this water droplet animation to loop continuously, but you instead wanted it to play like to be a still image, and then occasionally to play the water droplet animation. So let me get rid of that, and let me instead set our number of frames to, for example, 8. Actually, let me go 16. And if I were to pick a couple of frames that are just like the empty blue water, I can sort of treat that as my default frame, and then I can pick a sequence. So we can now select our 4 pieces of tile animation, and after that I'm gonna pad the rest of it out, the rest of the 16 frames out with just the the default blue tile like that. And now when I run the game, we're going to see that the water droplet animations play, and then they disappear, and then a couple of frames later, they're going to play again, and then they're going to disappear again. And that is, that's definitely more interesting than what we had before. They are all currently synced to the same frame, which might not really be what you are, what you want to happen. So if you want to like have them start on different frames again, there isn't really a built-in way of doing this in GameMaker, unfortunately, and I kind of wish there was. But if I select like this one of the other frames of the tile animation, and if I place that down, I can sort of stagger them, because your tile animations will start based on whatever the initial frame that you placed in the room editor is. And we can now have a this definitely looks better than what we had before. We've got a couple different points in the animation where it starts playing, so that the timings are staggered and they're not all like weirdly synchronized. All right. I wish there was an easier way to do this, to like pad out animations, or to have the start points shuffled in your tile animations like this. I submitted a feature request to GameMaker a while ago about that, and maybe it'll actually happen someday, but probably not any day soon. You also don't get like fine-grained controls over things like you can't have different tile animations in a tile set image have different animation speeds. I'm not entirely sure why that is. There wouldn't seem to be a technical reason for it. But anyway, that is a limitation. Oh, you can also name these auto tile libraries if you'd like. Do they appear in the libraries tab? They actually do. Okay. I forgot they were here. I always, when I want to take a tile animation in GameMaker and put it in a room, I will always click on like the first or the second or the whatever frame in the tile set like this. But honestly, them being here and also having names probably honestly makes this easier, and I should probably be doing that. So let me rename this to animation. I'm gonna call that ripples or something like that. And this one can be animation drop. And now you can see them nice and easy in the animations library in the room editor. All right. Good to know. So the thing that I wanted to do was use these with auto tiles. So let me go and set up an auto tile based on like these like land chunks like this. And do those actually have animation to go with them? I feel like they do. I don't think, like, I think the ripples around them are slightly different. Yeah, that one's a little more broken up and that one's a little more solid. So let me go and just define an auto tile. And I did this in the last video. If you'd like to see more about auto tiles, I will have a link popping out on screen. You can go and watch that. All right, it's going to look like this. I'm going to call this auto tile island or something like that. And I can now go and paint some of these auto tiles onto the room editor like this. All right, so that's nice. And it is, I love auto tiles in GameMaker, and also just in games in general. It really makes designing levels a lot easier. But none of these are animated. None of the like ripples around the borders of this land area has that like rippling animation that we saw in the tile set itself. Fortunately, if you go into your tile animation and if you define a tile animation, it will carry over and be applied when you use it as part of an auto tile in the room editor. So the upper left, so these parts of the like this corner of the tile set, that is now animated, and that looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Unfortunately, we also are going to have to do this for all of the other 16 tiles in the auto tile template. And I really wish the GameMaker had an easier way to do this, because it's, as it stands right now, having to set up even a 16-tile auto tile animation like this, that's going to actually take me forever. I'll do it here for the video. I think, let's see, make this a little bit wider so that I can have it all a reasonably large size and not have to, like, pan and zoom around a lot. I'm gonna cut away until I finish this. This is gonna take me a good minute. Hang on. All right, I think that is all the pieces of this that actually have animation to go with them. And there are a couple duplicate corner tiles in here, and I'm not actually sure if I like got all of them, but it looks like I did. All right, great. So we now have animated auto tiles. I really wish GameMaker had a better way of doing this, because that took a really long time. Like, I'm imagining something like if you were to select like define kind of like a brush, Did I accidentally change something? I accidentally changed something. Let me undo that. I'm imagining something where, like, it would be nice if you could select, like a rectangular region, um, like this, and then you could say, like, okay, that block, like, create a tile animation built from, like, this block, the next block, and the last block, but unfortunately, GameMaker doesn't let us do anything like that. I might have a conversation with them, um, about that or something like that, because as I've said before, I really like these tile features in GameMaker, but I wish they were like expanded upon to make them a little bit um useful for a wider variety of tasks. Anyway, let's see. I think that's pretty much it for tile animation. Although one last thing that I probably should note is in the room editor, if you hit the play button, some people think this play button in the room editor will actually run your game and then are confused about why it doesn't run your game. The play button to run your game is like up here, but the play button, if you want to preview animations in the room editor, you can hit that play animation button, and that will allow you to view not only sprite animations like that are assigned to the character, but also like tile animations like the kind that we dealt with today. And if you want to preview what you're looking at before you actually run your game, good way to do it. It is a not the most it's an easy thing to miss in the room editor if you're not looking for it, but if you ever wanted to do that, you can hit the play animation button there. Anyway, I think I'm gonna end this off here. So my name is Michael. I like Wizards and Dragons and making games. I like to post videos on all the stuff you can do in GameMaker, both beginner stuff like this and also weird advanced stuff like 3D and shader nonsense. If you're interested in any of that, feel free to subscribe. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. You should all go check out Wizarducks and the Lost Hat, which is one of the games that I like to work on when I'm not doing YouTube stuff. Link to the Steam page can be found down below. I hope you all enjoyed that, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Zenjamin, Zach Robinson, Squarecrow, Spide Games, Pixelated Pope, Paradox, Manta Ray, GameMaker, Gamer Indie, Edward Holt, DJ Gibbles, Brenton, Bokeh Dev, and Arger the Naut for supporting these videos. If you would like to join these wonderful people, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.